Okay, I think I'll go ahead and get started. Sue. Um, this morning we're going to run through our P6-Scrubber. I'm Nicole Jordan, CEO of Emerald Associates. I'll do the lead in, and then Sue Hopkins will take over and do the deep dive demoing the tool. So P6-Scrubber we've had on the go in various forms for many years, but now we've really put it into a GUI format to make it easier for people to administer and run through. So we're really excited about the tool and hope you find some interesting features as well. So one of the things that we all struggle with when we're working as P6 is when we have a collaborative environment where we've got contractors, engineering companies contributing to schedules. They often work in their own environment and they send us XCRs, typically, is how most of our clients do it when they're not in a shared environment. Now, we all know from having to struggle with it that XCRs have global data. They contain things that we may not want in our system. So they end up often polluting your P6, which becomes difficult when you want to have consistent reporting and you want to make sure that your program is being managed consistently. Okay, so let me just ask a quick question here out to those on the session. How do you deal with multiple users in different environments? I'm going to put a quick poll up, and let's just see what people are using. So we have people who do it differently. They may have a different database, and some people are saying they use a different database. Some modify the XCR manually, which is very dangerous. We've had some corruptions, and we have a lot of people who just import and clean up, depending on kind of the complexity. So it looks like most people are definitely using the database approach, secondary database approach, which is pretty common because you want to make sure your program, you're able to report on it properly. Now that might be because you have contract specifications that you're trying to meet. It is also often more and more now that you've got dashboards that are built on top of certain codings and things like that. So you want to make sure they're clean. You don't want management to start seeing strange results in dashboards. And of course, you want to be able to consistently monitor different engineering companies, different contractors. So keeping these standards nice and tidy is very important, but unfortunately, not that easy to do in P6 on its own. So what we've done, of course, is we've built P6-Scrubber. And as I said, we've really been working a lot on enhancing the user interaction and the controls. And we're going to run through some of the things that we've put in there. Now, before I do that, I want to ask one other quick question. How much time do you think you spend dealing with imports? So we have some clients who import weekly, bi-weekly, and then that can be quite a bit of effort. And then we have other clients who just do monthlies and maybe random amounts. So if you're dealing with a lot of imports, your number of hours is going to go up. So it sounds like 5 hours for the people on the session right now. 0 to 5 is kind of the range. So let's run through how P6-Scrubber works, and then Sue will go through and show you how it works. So how we've built it is this. You can import one schedule, one XCR file, or many. Okay, so if you have a lot of uploading that you do on a regular basis, you're able to import many at once. You're going to define the things that you want and things that you don't want, and we'll go into detail on that. And you're also going to be able to merge and omit. And you can also change some data. Okay, so missing or correcting is also going to be available. So in there, you can then set up these what we call a definition, and you can save them. Okay, so once you've imported a certain, let's say, contractor's file, you can have the definition already set up, so you don't have to redo it every single time. Again, the idea here is to try and make your life easier, not harder. And then you can see the results. You can see whether things are, maybe they've changed some things, and you want to make sure that you haven't missed anything that will pollute your P6. So you can see the results. You can make sure they're successful and coming out the way that you're expecting. And when you're happy with what you're seeing in the in the load of into Scrubber, you can then decide that you can take those files and load them into your P6. Now this is going to be it's a cloud-based approach. So the data is all sitting up in our cloud environment, and you put the file in, you get the results, and you take the file out, and off you go. That's the common approach, unless it's a corporate environment, in which case we will still have the option to do it in your own environment, whether it's if you're able to put in your hosted environment, or if you want it inside your own environment. All three options will exist. So what are we able to check? Well, we're able to check the main things that you're looking for. So UDFs, of course, can be problematic. Codes, of course. Cost accounts. In this latest version, we've added all the resource and role components to the system as well, so that you can do merging there. And Sue will run through that for you. So you create the definition, you import the files, you see what is going to take place. We're also dealing with those POBs and risk types that still seem to be straggling along here. And you're also able to deal with calendars. Okay. We also have validations on IDs, and Sue will go through those in detail. Okay, so we're going to take a quick look in detail. And I just want to ask one more question. It's probably a little of an overlap. How often are you importing projects right now? I put weekly, monthly, and once in a while, just to get a feel for how often people are dealing with this. Okay, so pretty often it looks like, yeah, weekly. Okay, so that seems to be pretty common, that we're having many imports, whether it's the same contractor who has to provide weekly updates, or whether you just have a lot of contributors. Okay, seems to be a pretty common occurrence. Okay, so Sue's going to run through how we can clean up project level data, how we can clean up activity level data, how we can do resource level data and roles. And we also have merging and remapping available. And she's going to run through calendars in detail. Okay. Now we've got the outputs similar to some of our other tools. So if you have some of our other tools, you'll know that we like to take advantage of the notebooks and HTML files so that you can see the results, sort of like this, and get an idea of what worked, what maybe didn't quite work the way you were hoping, and then you can rerun it if need be. And then when you're confident in what your output is going to look like, you can get the XCR out. Okay. And similar to our other tools, you're going to see that we have feedback flags, indicators, so that you might be loading the file for somebody else, perhaps. They can kind of see what took place in the scrub. Okay. So that feedback loop is also going to be available in P6. Okay, so I think I've touched on most of the items. Let me just make sure. Yeah, so I'm going to hand it back over to Sue, and she's going to run through and do the deep dive.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. I'm just going to share my screen here. And what I'm displaying here is P6-Scrubber, of course. I'm going to just go ahead and sign in. And let's take a look at what the tool is and kind of give you sort of an overview of what's going on here. So, what we've tried to do is to address those things that are a pain in the neck when we're importing XCRs from outside of our company. Things like codes, um, UDFs, etc. And of course, there's different levels of some of these items that we want to deal with. So um, we can keep some of them. We might want to, remove some, and we may need to remap or, combine some of these items together. So we've given you the ability to do that within a definition. So we have two ways of actually setting up a definition. We can go in and we can enable each validation that we want to run, and we can pick and choose manually what we want to do. So maybe in this case, on these codes, I want to remove any code that I don't have defined in here. Um, I could add a code type, and then I could also add dictionary values. But if you already have an XCR from a, say, a contractor that you actually want to use as a template, you're able to use that also, which makes it a little bit easier. You can actually see what's in that XCR and kind of stick handle each one of those pieces of information. So the way I can do that is I can go in and I can import my files. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to grab a file out here and I'm going to import it into P6-Scrubber. Once it's imported, it's going to give me some statistics, and then I can apply it into P6-Scrubber here. So now I can see what kind of codes are already there and what kind of UDFs, etc. So what I'm going to do here on this one is I'm actually going to deal with each one of these project codes in this case. So on this client one, I just don't have that in my P6 environment. I don't need it. And so I want to keep it clean. So I'm going to say I want to scrub that particular code type out. Now I do have district, but I want to make sure that my dictionary values are going to come over properly. Now in my P6 system that I'm going to import this into, I don't call my value dist5. What I call it is D5. So I can simply go in and I can say I want to remap this dist5 to the value of D5. And Scrubber's going to go out and change that value for me so it doesn't kind of pollute up this dictionary for my district, and my reports are going to run much cleaner for District 5. The client type, again, I just don't need that, so I'm not going to bring it in. However, on type of schedule, as I take a look, I see that there is actually, I have this type of information, but it's not called type of schedule in my environment. So what I want to do is actually remap this code type, and I'm going to call it schedule status. Now, when I do this, I already have schedule status in P6. So this value may or may not be already included in my dictionary. But I want to make sure that if I have new values, that they're able to come in. So in this case, I do have this option to scrub extra code values, but I don't want to, I'm not going to check mark this, because if this is a new code value, I want it to be created in that dictionary for schedule status. And then I'm ready to move on to my UDFs. So I've got several UDFs here. First of all, I want to enable my validation. And then I want to kind of stick handle each one of these again. So I'm going to scrub, I'm going to keep my project ID, my submitted project ID. I'm going to scrub the name, and I'm going to scrub my WBS cost performance. Now, hand in hand with that, I don't want any other WBS UDF to come in. I just don't use them, and it's just going to make things messy for me. So I'm going to actually check mark that subject area and make sure that I don't have any additional WBS, UDFs coming in when I scrub the file. Now I have a lot of these that I'm just not going to bring in. However, I have a submittal date that's coming in with this XCR, but in my P6 system, in my database, I actually call this submitted data. So I can go ahead and remap this UDF for submitted data. So I can go through and do that for projects, for activities, and resources. So I can handle those codes and UDFs in those areas. Now, sometimes you may have specifications that you've laid out for your contractors, let's say, in a particular contract. So some of those actually address things like, IDs and naming conventions. Also, if you are receiving multiple XCRs as the schedules are being updated, so maybe you've got them coming in every 2 weeks, and you want to make sure that all of those project IDs are going to actually match up and stay, consistent for that particular project. So what I can do is I can enable that and I can define a pattern for either the ID or the name. By doing that, I just click open and I've got some options here. And I'm just going to do a simple one. I'm just going to say I need to have this particular project needs to start with an SC. Now, once I've defined a pattern, I can actually test that pattern and make sure that what I've defined is going to work for what I'm checking. So if I wanted to then just go out and say, okay, I want to test a project ID, I can see that it is going to work because I've got a green box around this particular piece here. So I can actually check before I run this particular validation or this matching pattern matching.
So Sue, if it was wrong, what would it look like?
If
Maybe.
it's wrong, it's going to have a red area on it. So if I have nothing in there, it's actually gonna stay red. If I had something that did not match, it's going to tell me that this does not match what I'm trying the pattern that I have set
Okay.
up.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, another thing that we find is kind of a pain in the neck when we're importing some of these XCRs is that we have resources set up in our environment that are not the same ID or have a different name or something of that nature. So we've actually come in and made it possible to remap or rename the existing resources in an XCR. So I can see this as I'm looking at it that I actually have 3 engineering resources coming in, and they are for a civil engineer, and then we've got some lesser kind of some sub civil engineering resources. Well, all I have is civil engineering in mine. So what I can do is I can change that to the ID that matches, and not only can I do it in one of them, I could do it in all of them. And it's going to go in and it's going to combine all those. I'm just going to change all of these to match what my resource is in P6. And it's going to take those and remap them. I have the same ability to do that with my role remapping. So if I had other things if I had a different type of role structure, I could fit it into that role structure. If you use cost accounts, cost accounts work very much like UDFs. I can keep them, I can scrub them, I can rename them and give them a new ID or a new name. Now, the last piece is calendars. We all know that when calendars come in, if they're global, they can be a problem. Nothing's worse than importing in a project that puts 10 additional calendars at the global level and pollutes up your global calendar pool, your dictionary. So, we have the ability to look at each calendar that is included, whether, sometimes they're actually used in the XCR, sometimes they're just coming in as a global calendar from that other system. And you can determine. So I know that I have a standard 5-day work week calendar and that it matches this one. And so I'm going to go ahead and let that come in at the global level. However, all these other calendars are not something that I have at the global level in my P6 environment. So I'm going to actually say that I want to roll every one of these down to the project level. What P6-Scrubber is going to do is then go in, take those calendars, roll them down, and reassign those project calendars where they were assigned in P6 or in this XER. Now, once I have this definition all done and I'm ready to save it, I can go out and I can save the definition. So I'm going to go ahead and save as, and I can give it a name. And if I had any notes that I wanted to put about this particular definition to help me remember maybe what's in it, or what project or something, I could actually put notes in here so that I could see those when I looked at my definitions. And then I would apply, and it's going to tell me that it has saved it successfully. So now I'm ready to scrub. I can go out, again, open up my definitions area here and select the definition that I want to use on this particular or these files if I have more than one, and I can load that. That's going to apply the definition, and then I can go into my scrub files area and pop that open. And then I can select my files. Now I can have more than one file selected. So if I wanted to run several files that needed to against the scrubber definition, I could select them, and then I can begin to process them. And it's going to go out and it's going to start processing them all at the same time. Of course, it's going to come up with results one at a time, but you can start and get some of more than one moving at one point. So when I have it scrubbed, it's going to come up with some options here, and I'll be able to view my report. So I'm going to view this report here, and it is an HTML report, so it's going to open right up in my browser for me. It's going to give me a summary of what has happened when P6-Scrubber applied the definition that I set up to that XCR. I'm going to have some summary information up at the top, and you can tell very clearly what has changed, what has not. And then as I scroll down, if you've used any of our other tools, this is very much like our other tools. I can see for each validation whether it is passed, whether it's cleaned, or whether it was not clean and needed to have some adjustments made. I'm going to be able to see what was set up for my definition, and then I'm going to be able to see how that definition was applied and what was done when that definition was applied on that scrub. Now, if something is not quite working the way that I would like it to, I can simply go back to my definition. I can update it, save it, and rerun it on my file. Once I've got everything as I want it to work, if everything looks good, I can then go back and I can download my results. So when I download my results, it's going to come out as a zip file. And when I open it, I'm going to see that I actually have two items that came out. I've got that report that we just looked at, and that's in the form of an HTML. I might want to share this with my contractor. Maybe there's some things that need to be cleaned up that I would like to have, handled better when I receive that XCR file. I can actually give that feedback to them in the form of this report. And of course, I can also see my new scrubbed clean XCR. and it's going to have an appendage on it so that I can tell that it has been scrubbed and what date it's been scrubbed. I'm going to need to extract that. So I will extract that file, and it's ready to load into P6. Now I'm going to go over to my P6 now, and I'm going to import that newly scrubbed file. Go out and browse to it. And let me go into my correct area here. And I can see that here is my file. So I'm going to grab that and import it into my demo area and start my import. Now, while my import is running, I just want to visit a few of these items that actually are created by P6-Scrubber. You can see that I have one that I've already imported here, and I've got a notebook that is associated with it that is giving me, again, that report that we just looked at, as well as some indicators showing how P6-Scrubber has changed or not changed this file, how these basically have measured up. Now, back in Scrubber, as part of my definition, I can choose whether or not I want to produce these with my XCR or not. I have a toggle up here in the general area that I can say turn the notebook on or off, or turn those indicators on or off. So I can pick and choose actually what comes in with that XCR. If I didn't want all those indicators, I could turn it off, or again, I could keep them. In my case, I have kept them all so that I can show you what has come in with that and what has been produced. So right here is my brand new XCR that has been scrubbed. Above it is the old XCR, so the original XCR. I wouldn't normally be bringing them into, of course, the same database, but for comparison purposes, I have. So on my scrubbed XCR, I can see that I have my notebook here that's available, as well as those indicators that I talked about. And P6-Scrubber has told me this is what's happened. The project ID, that checked out just fine. I've got a green indicator. On my project codes and my project dictionary, well, I did have some codes and I did have some dictionary values that were altered or updated or changed. I can see that I have my district code here that was remapped to that new value, remember D5. And I've also got my type of schedule that has remapped into my schedule status, as well as it's told me that it's remapped. And it's also telling me about my project UDFs that I did have some changes in there. And you can see that I've got the ones that were scrubbed and kept all across. Now, some other UDFs that are provided at the project level are some high level ones that are telling me what happened with my activity codes, my roles and resources, and those codes, as well as my UDFs, my cost accounts, and my calendars. Now, calendars, let's go look at what happened with those calendars there. I had calendars that we had at the global level. And now I can see that I had two that actually were used within my XCR, and those have now been put at my project level. So those have been rolled down for me. In my activities, I have similar types of indicators. So I can see how each one, as I have it defined, measured up or was altered if need be. So I can see that I had a vendor code that looks pretty good. I've got greens all the way down. I've also got a work type that came in here. And it looks like I've got some that were clean values, and I had some that were actually removed. So it's telling me, hey, these were not valid values, and you chose to remove them. So it's telling me I've removed these values. They are not there anymore. And I've also got, of course, my UDFs. It's telling me, that I had some changes in my UDF area.
So do you have time to go back and show those mappings in the activities? Would that be
Oh, sure.
valuable?
In the dictionary?
Yeah,
You bet.
yeah,
You
okay,
bet. Or I'm sorry, not in the dictionary, in the definitions.
yeah, yeah,
So in my activities, if I look at my codes here, I can show that, I had one that was scrubbed, my vendor was okay. In my work types, what I had a work type value of ZZ in my original file. And what I did was I didn't want that to come in. That wasn't a valid value. So I scrubbed it. I said I wanted it to remove. And then I had an XX work type that actually should have been mapped to my earthworks. So I said, okay, I want to remap that. Now, when I go into each one of those items here, I can tell what has happened. And so, where those ones have been removed, I actually have an indicator telling me that those were removed for me. Discipline, I had essentially the same thing. If I go into my discipline here, I had some items that did not, uh, that were actually not filled in this case because I said I would allow extra code values to come in. And so it's just flagging for me. Hey, these didn't have values when they came in. So it brings my attention to the fact that these are not working, or that I didn't get the information that I had laid out there. So in this case, these were deleted. In this case, they were actually not defined at all. So it's going to tell me that. Now, the last thing I want to have us take a look at is are my roles and resources on these two projects. So I'm going to just open both of them so we can look at kind of the before and after on roles and resources. So let me change my layout. Now, this is my original file up here at the top. I can see the two different civil engineering resources that were actually more granular. And I can see that I've got some roles that were also associated there. But in my scrubbed file, I can see that my engineering resources have been changed to engineering CI, which I changed that to. And then something I didn't show you is on the roles, I actually I changed at a different role structure. So I changed these to my SC engineer TS and said that these were scrubbing extraction engineering. So let me just pop on over there and let's take a look at that piece also. So on my roles, I had a couple that I actually needed to put into a different format. So this is how they came in on the left, and this is how I changed them on the right. And those changes did indeed go through. So with that, I guess before I actually, um, I guess, turn over control again to Nicole, is there any questions that you'd like me to address while I'm actually in the live area here? And
I
you
don't
can chat
know.
those
It
here.
looks easy to me, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Chat, if anyone has a question right now, while Sue's still in the tool, and in P6, please go ahead and do it, but I don't know, it looked easy to me.
Okay.
I haven't used the software, so,
Okay. So, okay, looks
oh,
like we do have a question. So, can I run this on multiple projects and baselines? You can run it right now on projects. We don't have the ability to run it on a baseline unless it is detached
yeah.
and you have that actually exported as a project. But yes, we can run it on multiple projects. So if you have more than one project in an XER, it will run it on however many projects you have contained within an XER. So if I had a project and maybe 3 of its baselines, I could scrub it there.
I knew that question was coming next.
Okay, and another question I have is, can I use this on
Two of
XML
them.
files? Yes.
Yeah,
So XML files are definitely on our down coming down the pike.
yeah,
Um, it's from what I understand, it's fairly easy to transition this to an XML
yeah,
file. It has not been done yet.
yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
on our roadmap. So yeah,
yeah,
the
it's on
answer,
our roadmap, and so we do
yeah,
intend on including XCR or XMLs very soon.
yeah. Now my XCR files are really huge. Well, that could be that POBs and that risk stuff causing that.
Exactly. It really could be. If you have the risk items, you tend to get very large files. And I'm just going to go out and I'm going to open up one of those reports again. And actually, this one didn't have any in there. So let me see if my other one had. Nope, I'm sorry. I don't have neither one of these. I had clean files. But what I would find is up on my report is I would have a little box that says how many POBS or uh,
The risk types.
risk types were scrubbed out of this, which is, in a lot of cases, especially with those risk types, those can be tens of thousands of risk types. And once they've scrubbed it out, it may shrink your XCR down to a very manageable size. And that's what we see a lot is why XCRs become very huge is because of those risk types there.
Yeah. Now, just to go over one extra point on that XCR, Sue, maybe you should show them that you can actually grab more than one XCR at the same time as well. So if the XCR has multiple projects in it, obviously we're handling that, but we can
Right.
also upload more than one file at the same time, which
Right.
actually you
Which
did
I
show.
did. I
Sorry,
did.
sorry, my
I
mistake.
loaded that's
Yeah,
okay. I loaded
yeah,
the 2080 and the 4080 at the same time,
yeah,
and it takes them one at a time and does it, but I can line them up. And then while I'm working on maybe the first one, the other ones can finish as I go.
yeah, yeah. Okay, perfect.
Okay. Any other questions before I take it back over?
Will it be added into Loader? Um, we're right now, Brian. The game plan is to keep this as its own tool, just because we have slightly different tech inside there. That's the game plan currently. That's not to say we won't ever merge them, but right now, yeah, yeah, yeah. We're not opposed to it, but this is how we built it because it's different technology that we've employed. So right now, it is a separate tool, and if you're interested, let's talk. Okay, okay. So it looks. I think
Okay.
we've asked most of the
Okay.
questions, probably related
All right.
anyway
So
to the
I'm gonna
functionality.
Great. I'm going to stop my screen share now, and I will transfer my control back to Nicole so that she can wrap it up.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we for those of you that we've worked with in the past, you know that we don't make tools for fun. We make things that people are struggling with, and if you're struggling with them, we struggle with them too when we're doing rollouts and helping clients. So the idea here is to try and make things easier inside of P6, especially when you have large programs and large teams. So some of the benefits that our clients using different earlier versions of the scrubber have found is now you can start to give feedback very, very quickly to your engineering companies that you're working with, to the contractors that you're monitoring, rather than taking days to run through and see that there's problems inside their schedule. So the immediate feedback loop is a huge benefit. And of course, it makes using P6 much better. And hopefully you find that the user interface that we put together is pretty easy to work with. Now, Sue didn't focus So, oh, maybe we should have shown this. Sue did not focus on building one from scratch, but we also have the ability to mass copy and paste to build out the import settings, because you may not want to just rely on what you're receiving from the contractor. Okay, so we didn't actually focus on the manual approach so much, but that is also there. So the ability to build the configuration and then let one or many people within your team do these uploads is a huge benefit. And they go pretty quickly, as you can see. And that way, you're not spending as much time on that kind of cleanup. And of course, the benefit ultimately is to keep that system clean. And you don't, that way your reports are clean. You're not starting to use calendars and step on each other's feet using the wrong calendars, which of course can change even what your scheduled results are. So the accuracy and keeping the system clean, of course, are the benefits of using um, using the scrubber. Okay, so some of our clients that have been helping us put this tool together are using it in multi-user, multi-project, large programs, and that's of course the niche market. But because we're going to also deploy it in the cloud, and the way we're selling it is in packages. So a 10 pack, a 100 pack, 500 pack kind of model. We have a cloud environment too. So someone who's maybe just working casually needing to upload these, they've got an environment ready. They can just go ahead and start essentially using up their project packages as needed. So we've tried to make it quite flexible so that anyone really can take advantage of it. So hopefully you've seen some stuff that's interesting. Again, if you have some questions, go ahead and continue to throw them into the chat. So really, this is what Emerald does. We try and make your lives easier using Primavera tools. For those of you who are less familiar with us, we do all sorts of work around the Primavera software tools. Been doing it for 26 years. Got the gray hairs to prove it. And our focus has always been on integrations, automations, because we've had programmers on the team from the very beginning, realizing that, schedulers, people who do the kind of work we do, planners and schedulers, they're very valuable. We don't want them to be wasting a lot of effort doing manual type stuff. Now, of course, wrapped around that is our training and our integration type services. So if you do have any more questions, go ahead and chat them in. If not, we'll start wrapping up. Sue, what are your thoughts? Do you want to try and show a little bit of manual? Because we do have 5 more minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me try and flip this back to you.
Okay.
And we can
I
show
can take
just
it now.
that. Okay, perfect. Just that little manual build, which
Sure.
can be useful if you are starting your program, starting to work with contractors, developing your standards, and then we can wrap it up.
Okay. Actually, I got kicked out here.
Yeah, I saw that.
I had a little glitch in my in my connection
Internet.
here. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the meantime, I can actually go through there. So let me see. Okay, I already had. So the way I can start a brand new one, while I'm waiting for that to upload here, of course, it's going to get in my way, is I can actually start a new definition. And that's just down in here in that save and load definitions. And then I can go into wherever I want to, like, say, define. So I'll go into my activities at this point. I can enable it. Again, I can decide whether I want to scrub it out, the extra ones or not. And then I can start adding my from scratch everything I need. So I know that I have a vendor's code type out there, and it is a global code type. So I'm able to, define that. And then I can go in and I can start adding values. Now, what I can do with values to make it easier is I have my system here and I know that I've got that vendor value already populated in P6 itself. So I can go out and I can get to that activity code and I can actually bulk add what I have. And I'm going to grab all of these. Let me filter for all values. Oh, and I guess there's not many more. I thought there was more. And I can highlight those and I can then copy and go back to Scrubber. And I can use this little icon here that is a bulk edit. So I can pop that open and then I can paste my values in um, directly from P6. Or if I have an Excel file or something like that, I can paste those in there. Um, Now, some funny things that happen when I actually paste in from P6 is that I get my description, my header row, so I can choose to remove that row. And I also have this color that comes in. So I can actually say I don't want to bring that color in. And then I can say apply it. And it's going to load all those for me. Then I would just go down and I would say, I want to keep all these. So I can manually add anything just like that. If I have a file, I can actually download a CSV file also to populate my dictionaries. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible, even if you have to manually create um, your definitions there. But it's just as simple as saying I want to enable it and then start clicking my add button. We do, if you have a lot of uh, data that you're looking at and you want to filter, you can actually say, okay, I want to filter on, let's say, my vendors here. And it's going to just filter it down to my vendors. I can concentrate on my vendors and make sure that I have those all set the way that I want them to. So we do have some ability to really concentrate on specific pieces of information also.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks, Sue.
Sure.
Yeah. So the idea is to try and allow you to do as much copy and pasting, not have to build lists, big lists, especially if you have things like equipment codes or
Right.
things like that for turnarounds that can be quite enormous. So, okay, great. Okay, well, I think we can wrap it up there. So this, we are going to have some special promos here, and the environment should be up for some trialing and package building pretty darn quick here. So hopefully you've seen something that's interesting that you can see would make your lives easier, save you money, and hopefully we can make your lives better, of course, working with P6. Okay, just a sec. Let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, excellent. So thanks for attending, and feel free to reach out to us if you want some more information, and we'll definitely be in touch to hopefully get you trialing, using the system, and moving ahead with it. Thanks so much.